Welcome to the show. This is Smoke Test. My name is Brandon, and have we got a show for you today? We're going to go through Claude Opus 4.8. It is unlike any other model we've tested, but this model, it is different. It is different in a good way, a very good way. I've been a hardware engineer for 15 years. I spent 5 years in drones. We don't want you to get confused over hype videos, and maybe they're real and maybe they're not. The general structure of the show is 3 phases: part selection, where I can buy, and build instructions. I give you my opinion over whether it's good, bad, or maybe none of the above. No fluff, no filler. It's just realistic hardware engineering take over these AI models to build hardware. Let's jump right on in. So the good part about part selection with Claude Opus 4.8 is that right off the jump, it asked me to rank 4 different things: detection accuracy, video stream quality, cost, and ease of setup. That is really interesting from an AI model. Nowhere else has a model asked us to rank how we prioritize certain parts of any hardware project. Why is that important? If you've never heard of the iron triangle, there are always trade-offs in projects. Usually they come in the form of 3 things, hence a triangle: cost, quality, and speed. This question, rank them in order, forces the user to make those trade-off decisions before part selection happens. Once the model gets those rankings, then it can give good options based on the priority that I've set for this specific project. It bears noting that this could be different literally for every single person that chooses a project. That's why it's so important. It allows Claude Opus 4.8 to give good options right off the bat, almost one shot, if you will. That's the good part. The bad part is that, and we've seen this over and over again, specifically with Claude, but 4 questions just is not enough to get into the nuances of any hardware project. If it were to ask, what environment are you using this in? A couple of nuances get pulled out of this. It would affect lighting, which is really important for video streaming, and power. Do we need a battery? Do we need a solar panel? Do we need a solar panel converter? Because it limits it to 4 questions, you're not able to get into the nuance. Now, we want to balance that a little bit with this great question about the ranking. No other model has limited the user questions to 4, but Claude has always done it. I think this is an intentional decision based on data of what's too much and what's too little, and I think they've settled on 4 is the right amount. That might work if you're iterating a lot, but in hardware where we're not iterating a ton because iterations cost us both time and money to order parts, it's a bad thing. Even though they've asked this question for ranking and they kind of fit in 4 questions inside of that one, if you counted it total as 7, it's still not quite enough. You could spend 2 hours doing nothing but answering questions, but because they do this ranking, it allows the model to make really, really good choices right off the rip. In terms of part selection, it's better than 4.7 was, for sure. The only problem I had was the amount of time that it took 4.8 to run. I don't know if that was a bandwidth problem, a high usage problem, or if it's just a problem. I can't tell. But it did take a while. I had to turn thinking off in order for us to get answers. But once I turned thinking off, we flew right through it. That's the good and the bad of part selection. So as we get into where we can buy, we asked Claude 4.8 to give us a structured parts list. We do this with all of them. We never really know what we're going to get, but it did something really kind of interesting. It chose core parts like compute, but then it tried to build this project around a single retailer. Now, that's not always possible, but even the fact that it attempted to do that is rather profound. No other model has done this. This is the first time Claude's done this. This is specifically with 4.8, but that is very unique. As a hardware builder, I love it because I don't want to go to 15 different retailers if I don't have to. You end up paying double shipping because you're ordering 2 parts from 2 different places and you don't meet minimum quantities. It's very nice if they're available to spend even $2 or $3 extra in a place and not have to pay the extra shipping costs. It makes a ton of sense. It simplifies everything. You add it all to a single cart and things just are really easy. So that's really unique, specifically to Claude 4.8. In addition, I know this is going to blow your mind. Most of the links actually work. I know, it's crazy. Compared to previous, even Claude models, they would just throw links to Amazon in there all day. They seem to have pulled that out a little bit. You're juggling lots of different stocks in Amazon. They don't even like playing with links very much because I don't know why. They just don't. But they've pulled most of that out. And instead of providing a bad link, they just say, hey, you should search for this. But it's not a bad link. And so that's better. That is better than what it was doing. The bad part was that in the places that it suggests a search, that information is not contained in the project itself, and it leaves the project open for a ton of variation that it doesn't know how to account for because that information isn't here. And surprisingly, as rock solid as Claude has been with documents, it didn't actually output a document this time. I don't know if that's specific to 4.8 or if it just decided not to do it this time, but it didn't produce a parts document. That's a problem. I need a parts list. I need a document. I need a spreadsheet. I need a bill of materials. You get the gist. We've talked about this before. This is same old hardware engineer talking, and I'm kind of surprised. The good parts about build instructions, timeout, hold the front door. Build instructions with Claude is absolutely stunning. I'm not kidding. I'm not embellishing. I was blown away. It produced a 16-page document that actually is reminiscent of engineering quality build guides that I've seen. In a lot of cases, engineers don't produce documents this good. Over my career, I have seen corporate documents that 15 people working for a week and a half couldn't produce as good as Claude just did. The level of detail inside of that document is astounding. Not only do we break everything down by sections, the formatting is great. We give a description right from the beginning, and then we give an overview and a parts and a tool checklist. It actually recommended a screwdriver this time, which is imperative. And then also, it suggested I have an HDMI display, USB keyboard and mouse. Like, it had utterly failed to do this up to this point. And so the layout itself is, I'm shocked, honestly. I'm shocked it's this good. I've used Claude a lot. I know how well it does documents. It still exceeded all of my expectations. Even the way that it layered in the right approach, how to stand up a new module and test it and verify that it works first, and then attach it and then implement it into the whole thing. That is the way that hardware is done. Unlike software, we don't actually know if the hardware works before we've put it together. And so a lot of the previous instructions with a lot of the other models, I would say Grok was probably the best at this. Claude takes it to a whole new level. The way they think about building instructions flows the way it should. You could hand this off to somebody who knows literally nothing, and they could probably get, I would say, 99% of the way there. Most engineers aren't going to be able to find many problems with this. It's going to be very technical, very minute details that are wrong. It is really, really good. Now, the bad part about build instructions, because let's be honest, I want to be fair, and I'm nitpicking a little bit at this point. We talked about the parts that it left open in the search. The only way that these build instructions could get better is if there's a way for me to bring those in before we hit go. That is the only way, because it doesn't know some of the accessories that I'm going to buy. It doesn't really know how that's going to look, whether I have a boom or whether I have just a straight camera arm. It has no idea. It still produces relatively good build instructions, and it's scattered throughout in such a way that it makes a ton of sense, but that's the only place that it can improve. So that is Claude. I will say this. I tested Claude 4.7 previously. This is head and shoulders above 4.7. The thing that would improve 4.8 the most is a better process for asking questions. And you can kind of see that as it works its way through the system, because it just kind of one-shots everything and it's not iterative. But by and large, this is a passing grade. For the first time ever, I would give any AI model a passing grade. I would say 75-80% job. It could do a little better in certain places. Can you go out and build something complicated with this today? No, you can't. This is a pretty simple project, but we're getting there. And that's the point. That's why we do this. That's why we record these. That's why we do these reviews in the first place, just to see the reality of where these models are and how they're coming along and where they're making improvements and where they're failing. But at the end of the day, could somebody go out and create a simple project? I would say yes. For simple projects, we're getting to a place, specifically with 4.8, where we can start putting those things together in a pretty quick and unique way. Again, a lot of the failure up to this point has been errors in the process. That still exists. Errors, faults, not entirely failure. But at the end of the day, it's getting better and it's improving, and that's really all we want to see. We want to see these models that are able to give us real hardware direction, quick, fast, and easy. The iron triangle, fast, cost efficient, with high quality. That's what we really want. That's it this week for Claude Opus 4.8. Hope you enjoyed it. My name's Brandon. This has been Smoke Test.